What is going on, Comic Fam? It is your boy, the Bearded Comic Bro, and I am joined by creator David Hazan. Welcome to the show.
And thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you on the show. You are the writer behind the new series from Mad Cave called Nottingham, and I can't wait to jump into this book because it is buck wild. But before we hop into the book, I know you were a winner of Mad Cave's talent search back in what,
Yeah,
2019?
2019 is correct.
So what inspired you to enter into that contest? Were you dabbling in comics before this? Was this just kind of like, I want to try my hand at it? What inspired you to enter the contest?
I was dabbling, yeah, I would say, in comics for a few months before I entered the contest. And it just kind of happened that I found out about it and entered on a whim. I almost didn't enter it because uh, I wrote the thing and forgot to send it, and then I realized last minute and sent it through, and I was like very grateful I remembered that because, well, I won, but yeah, it was very much on a whim thing,
Yeah.
and the stars just happened to align, I guess.
And luckily you remembered to send it in. Otherwise, we wouldn't be blessed with this book that we're going to be talking about here in a little bit. So you said you kind of were dabbling in writing. Did you grow up reading comics? Is this your kind of first foray in the comics, or just what inspired you
Yeah,
to
so
kind of get into that?
I never grew up reading comics. I think there were like maybe two. There were two comics in the house, uh, 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 amongst a whole bunch of books. Right, there
Yeah.
were two comics. I remember one Simpsons comic, and there was one Star Wars comic which I bought, which was like this high concept Star Wars things that were not in canon.
Yeah.
Because I was Star Wars obsessed. I remember liking a lot of superhero media, but not really getting into comics until a few years ago. Sort of in the few months before the talent search, someone shoved a copy of Batwoman Elegy into my hand. A coworker to whom I will forever be grateful. And from there, I just got obsessed. Really, I don't understand how I wasn't into comics now looking back on it, but that's just how how it turned out. But I was always writing and reading, just never comics until quite recently.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. I grew up reading comics, and then I just, for some whatever reason, got out of comics for reading comics for 10, 12 years and just picked up one at an LCS opened up near me, and I was like, I should just go check this out. And I got the bug again, and I'm hooked. And here we are talking about comics on the show. So it happened.
Yeah.
But be ever grateful for your coworker who shoved that comic into your face then.
Oh yeah. It was actually sort of a collaboration between two co-workers, one of whom has written comics in the past, one of whom is an amazing artist. But I'll leave them nameless for the purposes of this interview.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Well, so jumping into your book real quick, if people haven't gotten a chance to preview Nottingham, what is the elevator pitch for this book?
So what we've done is we've taken the Robin Hood legend and turned it on its head. Our protagonist is the Sheriff of Nottingham, who is effectively a cop in a medieval police procedural, and he's hunting down a serial killer who has a fascination with murdering tax collectors.
That's a great elevator pitch because I'm hooked. I've read the story, the first issue, but I'm hooked already. And if someone hasn't didn't get hooked into that, I don't know what they're missing out on then. So what inspired this kind of switch of this classic tale of Robin Hood to turn it up?
It was a couple of things. Firstly, I got a very, very loose brief from Mad Cave, and I took that as a sign of trust. But the brief was a noir, and there were maybe some details that they gave me that I was like, I pitched them something closer to what they were looking for, and then I pitched this. And the reason why I chose this is because I have an established cast of characters, which allows you to tell a story in 5 issues, which you may not be able to tell with a new cast and a new setting in 6 or 7 issues. People know who these characters are. But then also at the same time, you have the opportunity to surprise people by giving them things that they weren't expecting with those characters and subverting their expectations. And so I just was like, okay, noir, what is... I did my research on the genre beyond sort of the media that I consumed, and found out that it was very much a heavily post-war anxiety-fueled genre. And so I was like, well, what's our medieval kind of comparator to World War II? And the Crusades popped into my head, and I was like, well, that led me all the way to Robin Hood, and I was like, okay, we have to do this. And I pitched the 2 ideas, and Mad Cave loved Nottingham, so that's what they went with.
That's fantastic. So you said you were doing research kind of originally with like more crime noir style. Once you landed on the Robin Hood idea of kind of flipping the script of it, how much research did you do about Robin Hood and the world that's already been established? Because I know you talked about established characters being them. How much research did you do, or is this already a love that you had for Robin Hood?
I think it was already there. A lot of the research I did was actually more on the history and less on the legends, because I wanted the plot to kind of make sense. And in order to make it make sense, it had to be in like this certain period of like 2 years. So there was some, little bits of historical surgery that I was doing to make it work.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So it was more of looking at that time period and trying to figure out how you can get this story in that, more than watching like pre-made Robin Hood movies or tales to kind of to get.
Yeah, I think there's sort of there's a diminishing returns thing about watching so much of that stuff, because then it influences you too much.
Right.
And that's not necessarily what I wanted. I wanted to do something that was a departure from everything I'd seen before. So
yeah, that's great. So, I mean, yeah, because definitely if your characters all of a sudden start breaking out in song, we'll know that you were heavily influenced by Men in Tights.
I definitely, I definitely think that that's not going to happen. There is one there. I will tell you, and I can tell you this. There is one song in issue 3. That's all I'm saying.
That's what I like to hear. I'm intrigued. I am intrigued. That's awesome.
But you can bet that it's going to be real sad.
Okay. You're not going to feel cheery about it afterwards.
No.
You're going to make me cry. Great. All right, cool. That's so you've heard it here first. That I'm going to be crying reading issue 3. Well, that's so cool to kind of just see like how that process is of trying to figure out, this twist, this new tale. So how did the creative team come around? Was this more of Mad Cave saying like, here's your people, and then or did you get some say in this?
I know, like it was like the advantage of working for hire in comics is that lots of things get done for you, and that's like a fantastic feeling for a new creator, I think. Yeah. Because trying to navigate making comics on your own, especially as a writer, I think is very, very difficult. And there are so many traps that you can fall into. And Mad Cave, Shane, our artist, won the 2019 Talent Search as well. So that was the pairing that Mad Cave came up with, was me and him. And then they found our colorist and our letterer, so we didn't have to do anything in that regard, really, and it all kind of fell into place rather well.
Yeah, you mentioned the artist Shane. The artwork on it is beautiful, and it's a beautiful merging, I think, of your writing and Shane's artwork. Almost has like more of a elongated feel of characters, and I think it just stands out so much when you're reading the story that it's a beautiful message.
Yeah. I was really surprised by, I think, Shane's style and how well it worked, because I obviously I'd only seen like 3 pages from Shane. I had no idea what it was going to look like. And yeah, he just, every character design, I was like, oh, this is like, the character is not just their physique, but also their inner turmoil is on the page as well. Like it captured character, not just appearance, I think.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Absolutely, for sure. So you said this is going to be 5 issues. Is that
5 issues? Yeah.
okay? And now, is it planned on just kind of you have your 5 issue story that this is what you want to tell, or if the opportunity to explore the Nottingham universe would that be more down the road possibly, or is this like I'm focusing on the 5 issue and containing it and happy with that kind of thing?
I think whenever you get told this is the amount of issues you have, you're right. You write to the space that you have.
Yeah.
And that's all I'll say on that.
All right. Oh, that's how it works. That's so good. So what was it like then for you to, knowing some of these characters that, like you said, they're established and you have them established. Like we know, like, oh, we're familiar with Robin Hood, we're familiar with Sheriff Nottingham, like we know these characters, but like you said, you had to take a twist. And so it allowed you to use established characters, but how did the process of going like, okay, I want to take like and make Sheriff of Nottingham the protagonist, where he's not necessarily the villain. What was kind of that process for you of adapting the characters?
I think it fell into place fairly easily. Like the beauty of noir is that there are so many tropes that you can use to your advantage, and also in a way to shortcut storytelling. And like that, it made sense that the sheriff would be this kind of detective, because he is the enforcer of the law in the legends. So all I had to do was sort of turn the camera around the other way, and have us looking from his perspective for the most part. And then Marion was such an easy one, because like you can give her the standout female role, which is always the femme fatale, and all of a sudden you take this meek and kind of helpless character and you give her power and agency, personally, socially, sexually. You just give her all of that power that it frustrates the viewer that she lacks in the legend, and it makes her like iconic straight away.
Yeah, you definitely see that, especially your writing brings that out. Without giving anything away, just an exchange with her, in the middle of the story, with one of your other characters, like you see that come out of her. You're like, this is a very strong character, and does seem like it's a different take than we've gotten with the other ones. And you're right, it makes you almost go, where was this in other tellings of the story?
The answer was nowhere, unless you like read a lot of X-Men and just are obsessed with Emma Frost. That's where entirely where my inspiration for her character came from.
That's great. So I know you said you were looking at the noir style concept. Are there some noir style movies or something where you kind of pull some inspiration from of that? You're like, this is what I like, because it's definitely a different style, obviously, than a Robin Hood and the noir.
Yeah, I pull a lot from television. I'm quite TV obsessed, and so I've pulled a lot from the insane amount of television that I watch, in terms of structure and in terms of setting and kind of the way the plot unfolds. Is just from years of watching quirky crime procedurals. Like I don't watch Law and Order, but I sure as hell watch like the Lucifers and like all those kind of quirky detective shows. And I think that really contributed to the whole snowballing thought process that led to Nottingham.
Yeah. That's great. I was going to ask you what are some that you're into, and then as soon as you said Lucifer, I'm like, okay, I understand. That's great. So as this is your kind of your first exposure into comics, what was it like when you got that kind of first print back, or the first digital copy, even if that's, and seeing it?
I do not have a print copy yet.
Yeah, so first digital copy then. What was that like, completion, when you tell your story?
It's such a like a weird relief, I think, because you just, especially with comics, you still don't you can't see it until you see it.
Yeah.
And I think being a creator, especially because I'm in Australia and I'm on the other side of the world to kind of the rest of the comics industry, it can be like a bit isolating, and you kind of in this place where you're not sure whether a thing is good or not, and until you see it and can read it, and it's nice to see all of the stars align in that regard. It's such a relief to go, okay, I can actually do this. This is the proof. It's there. It's not just something that's sort of abstract and
Right.
sitting in a Word document and a script somewhere. It's real and it's there.
So when does it come out? When does Nottingham officially come out?
So number one releases on the 3rd of March, which is probably going to be like the 4th of March for anyone in Australia, but 3rd of March for the United States and probably the UK, and I don't know, Canada, I guess, and wherever else people want to read this.
So I've always heard of like people, when a movie comes out that they're in or something like this, they always have like unique rituals that they do on release day. Would this being your first comic, do you have any idea of like, this is what I want to do, like with the day it releases? Like, do you have plans for that at all?
I'm gonna go in and sign some copies
Nice.
to my local store, but apart from that, I don't have any plans. It's such a weird thing because it obviously comes out on a Wednesday,
right.
And to any viewers who don't quite get this, most comics creators who aren't working for the big two have day jobs.
Right.
It's just a little strange. I think I'll probably celebrate on the weekend, but
Okay.
I don't know. I just haven't quite figured that one out.
Oh, you've got time. You've got time to figure out what your ritual is for your comic release day. And it might just be going to work.
It probably will be.
That's awesome.
In fact, I'm at work right now.
That's even better. So, well, it's, with you being at work, I don't want to keep you forever.
No. My boss literally, I told him I was doing this. He literally left the building, so it's fine. He's like, I'll leave you to do this. I'm gonna go out and work from home. I'm like, okay.
All right, sweet. So do you have plans of more stuff in the future that you're kind of dabbling on, working on, that you can talk about at all, or not, or just?
I can't talk about much.
Okay.
There's a Kickstarter that I'm planning for the end of the year. So I can only talk about things in really vague terms.
Yeah, no,
I've got some anthology work with an Australian publisher that I'm doing. That's all that I can talk about at the moment.
So, but you're definitely, you have some more things that are cooking that.
Oh yeah, irons are in the fire.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so cool, because like you said, I know you're, being across, in the future for us over here in the States, you're already a day ahead of us. So that it can be, unique trying to navigate release dates and interviews and all of this stuff. And so I think it's kind of cool, though, that we have this technology that allows us to have these conversations and things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we would pretty much in the last year have been pretty lost without it,
Yep.
It's invaded every single part of my professional and life. So
it absolutely has. And that's what's so unique. So as people that want to see, what you're doing, obviously they're going to be picking up Nottingham, because if they don't, you're silly. So they're going to be picking up Nottingham. They're going to be reading that. But where can they stay connected with you? How can they kind of see, like, when you are allowed to talk about stuff? How can they find you and follow with what you're doing?
Yeah, Twitter is the absolute best place to find me. I'm on there probably too much. At David T Hazan. That's just the letter T, not the word T. So you can find me there, or you can find my website and my very much infrequent mailing list at www.davidhazan.com.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, David, thank you so much for just taking some time to talk about comic books, and
no problem.
Thank you for coming up with this great idea, because I don't know why. As I was reading Nottingham, I don't know why someone hasn't done this yet before, but this is great.
That was my reaction. I was like, literally thinking about it. Has someone done this before? And if not, why not?
I'm reading it, and I was trying to double check it in my head, because I'm like, this feels like something that should have been done years ago, and it hasn't. And I'm like, and I think that's it. Just you're writing with what you've done with this world that you created. It is, I think people are going to read issue 1 and be instantly hooked. And so I can't wait to see where you take us in these, in this 5-issue series, because it's a ride I'm here for.
Good. I'm glad people are reacting positively to it, because you never know as a creator. So thank you very much, and thank everyone who has pre-ordered or has checked it out. Thank you very much.
And all the links that David mentioned are going to be in the description of this video. Make sure you guys go and follow and support him and all that he's doing. With that being said, hopefully everyone watching, you can find some time to curl up, grab a book, and nerd out. Peace.